Magneto in this movie is the sassiest gay bitch I have ever seen in my whole life.
The professor trusted you were smart enough to discover this on your own. He gives you more credit than I do.
We love what you've done with your hair.
Hey, I'll go.
What do you intend to do? Scratch it with your claws?
Get her, Jade.
What's going on, everybody? I am Winston A. Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blerd, and this is my C.P.T. rewatch and review of X2 X-Men United, the 2003 film from the Fox Marvel Universe, the Marvel Fox Universe, however you want to say it. If you haven't already, and this is your first time here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you enjoy the video at the end, throw a like and a comment on there, man. It really helps the algorithm, and I would greatly appreciate it. I hit 3,000. I think we actually just hit 3,100 subscribers just yesterday, which is absolutely sick. Thank you so much to everybody that's rocking with me, man. Please be sure to share all this stuff out. We're on the drive to 5 right now, and I really appreciate it, especially all the folks. Apparently I gotta talk more hip-hop, man, because there's hella people that showed up to talk about the Kendrick music video, and I was motherfucking right. I told everybody that those shipping containers were a direct nod to the segs trafficking stuff going on, so definitely go watch that video, man. I would greatly appreciate you throwing some love on there. But let's get, for why you're here, man, we are talking about X2 X-Men United. Now, just some quick stuff about the film, directed by Bryan Singer. This time, still written by David Hayter, but you also have Michael Dougherty on it, and Dan Harris, and story by Zach Penn and Bryan Singer, as well as David Hayter. You had a lot of people actually return. Obviously, Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Halle Berry as Storm, Famke Janssen as Jean Grey, James Marsden as Cyclops, Anna Paquin as Rogue, Rebecca Romaine Stamos as Mystique, and Shawn Ashmore as Iceman. We added to the ever-growing cast Brian Cox as William Stryker, Alan Cumming as Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler. You had Bruce Davison, who was in the last one as Senator Kelly, but you only get him as Mystique, dressed like him. You've got Aaron Stanford as Pyro, and Kelly Hu as Lady Deathstrike. So those are some of the stuff right out the gate. One of the cool things, the budget here was up to, you're looking at it somewhere between 110 and 125. Looks like they pulled 407.7 million at the box office. Again, this dropped back in 2003. And the other big film that happened that year was Daredevil, which I'll get to it. Okay. Anyway, just giving the quick plot of the movie. Then, I'll give my thoughts on it and where I rank it and all that kind of stuff. So very quickly, opening up the movie with Nightcrawler attacking the White House and trying to kill the president. He ends up wounding a lot of agents but doesn't pull it off. Logan is in Alberta, Canada, looking for his pass but doesn't really find anything. Jean Grey is on a field trip with Storm and Cyclops, a bunch of the kids from the X-Mansion, and Charles, and she's having a lot of premonitions that something really bad is coming. One way or the other, her powers are starting to get out of control a little bit. Ultimately, Logan returns to the school. Xavier is talking about the assassination attempt and what it can mean for mutants, so they're trying to find Nightcrawler. Sends Storm and Jean to go find Nightcrawler, whereas Xavier and Cyclops go to question Magneto. Wolverine stays to babysit and watch the kids. In that time, William Stryker, because the assassination, goes to the president, asks for clearance to go invade Xavier's school, and does attack, Colossus leads some of the students away. Wolverine ends up with Rogue, Iceman, and Pyro and escapes with them to Boston, where Iceman is from. While all this is happening, Mystique gets information about where Magneto is, gets information about what Stryker is up to, uses a very intricate plan to put iron in the blood of the guard, and Magneto gets out with Mystique. You end up with all the crew led by Logan in Boston, having the cops called on them by Bobby's family. They ultimately meet up with Jean and Storm, who have gotten Nightcrawler, and they all ultimately meet up with Magneto and Mystique, while Cyclops and Xavier are kidnapped. Ultimately, they realize where Stryker's base is. They all break in. They save the kids. They save Cyclops, who had been mind-controlled for a bit. They are able to save the professor, who's being used in a plot. The Stryker's big plot is to use Cerero and the professor's mind via his son Jason to kill all mutants across the globe at one time. Ultimately, Magneto shows up and reverses it, and Xavier's about to kill all humans. But again, that's able to be stopped by the X-Men. They go to get away. They're about to die because the dam is flooding. Jean stops it, but she ends up sacrificing herself at the time. Her extra powers allows her to do that and whatnot. And then you see in the post-credit scene that a phoenix is kind of rising in the water. So that's the main plot points. Let me talk about some of the pros. First of all, I think this is incredible storytelling. I think that this movie had incredible storytelling. There's a lot of callbacks throughout from both the first film and throughout this film. So the very beginning at the museum, you have this a little girl eating ice cream, stick her tongue out at one of the mutant kids, and he sticks his tongue back out, and it's like, you know, it looks like a lizard's tongue. You get that call back at the end when Stryker says some horrible things about mutants, and you know, you're just gonna be one of the freaks, and the little kid does a little tongue out thing there again.
Someone will finish what I've started, Wolverine! One day!
You know, little moments like that. The callbacks to Mystique's scar when she fought Wolverine in the first movie, how he did damage that she couldn't recover from. And that's one of the things. She doesn't have the same healing factor, say, as Wolverine, but because she can manipulate her cells on a molecular level, just going to like really drive the nail home the damage that Wolverine's adamantium claws did. You gotta love the multiple times Nightcrawler gives his whole spiel about I was the great Nightcrawler, and he gets cut off all the time. That's a funny little callback that happens throughout.
Who the hell is this?
Kurt Wagner. But in the Munich circus, I was known as the Incredible Nightcrawler.
Yeah, save it.
Who are you?
My name is Kurt Wagner. But in the Munich circus...
He's a teleporter.
Probably one of the moments that got me, the president flinching at the end when all the X-Men show up during his press conference, his speech, and Nightcrawler waves, and the president flinches, and Nightcrawler's like, that was hilarious. The scoring on this film. Absolutely epic, really well done score on this movie for sure. Some of the best displays of mutant powers that we have seen ever, but obviously now we're only 2 mutant films in, and so, you know, I'm thinking about Iceman blowing on the soda. That's something very subtle, but like a practical use. Professor Xavier freezing all of the museum was a big deal. Nightcrawler's intro, the ability to show how destructive Nightcrawler can be if he is using his powers at like full clip. Pyro versus the cops, just his ability to blow shit up like crazy, that was amazing. And then Magneto's escape. This is something that people don't realize. Something as little as the iron in your blood, because and I think that was also an homage to Magneto stripping the adamantium out of Wolverine in the comics, which we also saw in X-Men 97. This is a situation where he really can sense metal and magnetic fields like fucking crazy. So to just put extra iron in somebody's blood, absolutely genius way for him to escape. Another pro, I thought there were great discussions about real discrimination, identity issues, and all that stuff throughout. Like there's a really great conversation that Storm and Nightcrawler have at one point, talking about, you know, Nightcrawler and is he angry and all that. And, you know, he was like, you know, I look like this, obviously I'm a mutant, I can't really hide all this, but I like my faith keeps me through. But he asks Storm about it, and it's very interesting to specifically ask Storm, who's not only a mutant obviously, but she's a black woman. And so again, there's layers on layers of that conversation, her talking about how angry she is all the time for being othered and attacked constantly.
Someone so beautiful should not be so angry.
Sometimes anger can help you survive.
So can faith.
Which makes sense. If you were constantly getting attacked and othered and treated as subhuman and treated as a secondary class, you are going to eventually develop resentment and anger. And it was just really interesting to have the conversation with Kurt and Storm, and her talking about her anger, him bringing his faith into it and sharing his faith in what that means to him. There's a lot of discussion about how Bobby coming out to his parents as a mutant is a direct connection to somebody being gay and coming out.
When did you first know you were
A mutant? We thought Bobby was going to a school for the gifted.
Bobby is the gift.
This mutant problem is a little
What mutant problem?
complicated.
Which is why I always thought it was very funny that people all of a sudden wanted to be really upset that, oh, X-Men 97 will turn the X-Men woke. One, motherfucker, the X-Men have always been an allegory for marginalized groups being treated as subhuman by, you know, the majority. That is the thing that has always been the case with the X-Men, period. And I thought Bryan Singer did a really good job here of taking the scene and paralleling it between being gay and having to have that conversation with your parents, especially if they're not accepting of that kind of stuff, etc., etc. And to see that the parents are trying, but a lot of the stumbling, kind of ugly language, and then the brother really doesn't F with it and calls the cops on them, like all of that. I thought it was a masterclass in being able to essentially imprint something in the real world onto this movie. On top of that, we got a couple other big moments. Kurt asking Mystique about hiding, her saying you never should have to.
Why not stay in disguise all the time?
Because we shouldn't have to.
But also the irony of that, knowing that we know, if you're a big X-Men fan, that is technically, that is his mom. So, you know, the fact that if you have enough of the lore to know that makes that conversation also very interesting. And then Magneto also has a moment in this discussion about using his real name.
What's your name?
John?
What's your real name, John?
Pyro.
By the talent you have there, Pyro. Never let anyone tell you different.
I'm going to get to it in a minute about Magneto and how he is portrayed in this movie, which I fucking love. But it's another conversation about somebody, like if you were to, again, talk about the LGBTQ community, if you were to talk about pronouns, or if you transition like dead names, things like that, it's the same thing where they're like, oh, my name's John. What's your real name? And be like, oh, I'm Pyro. It's like, don't ever let them tell you that you're anything less than you are. Again, this is a situation where this movie came out in 2003, and you were having these metaphors and these allegories for things plugged right in. Nobody had a problem with it then, so it's very interesting to see that all of a sudden now, doesn't matter, not the important part. I also thought that there was a really good understanding of character. The fact that Scott's car, he listens to NSYNC.
I don't like uncomfortable silences.
What are you doing?
That's something that Slim, that the Goody Two-Shoes Boy Scout definitely would do. The fact that Magneto would never snitch on mutants unless he was absolutely forced to, and not forced isn't like he was tortured, he literally had to be mind controlled in order to do it. You know, otherwise he never would have given up mutants, which is his thing. He's about mutant liberation, just by any means necessary, and specifically by, you know, killing humans if they're gonna come for him. He ain't gonna let that shit happen to his people. Again, Magneto's conversation and how he recruited Pyro and all that, the real name stuff, and talking about his powers, all that. But here's the big thing that I really love about this. This isn't necessarily understanding Magneto's character in the sense that, like, he's always acts this way, but I thought it was hilarious. And it works exceptionally well. Magneto in this movie is the sassiest gay bitch I have ever seen in my whole life. Like, you don't believe me? Let me show you some of his bars.
Mr. Lorio, never trust a beautiful woman, especially one who's interested in you.
The professor trusted you were smart enough to discover this on your own. He gives you more credit than I do.
Go! I'll take care of him!
This is one lover's quarrel we cannot get involved in, my dear. We love what you've done with your hair.
Hey,
Once again, you think it's all about you.
I'll go.
What do you intend to do? Scratch it with your claws?
Get her, Jade.
I love what you did with your hair. You gonna scratch it with your little claws, and you should have never trust somebody who would be interested in you. Like, bro, try and tell me he is not a sassy gay motherfucker in this, and he is not here for your shits. And if you cross him, he will fuck you up. On top of the fact that Magneto is like the way you see, obviously, a lot of women and gay men like having really close bonded friendships. That's one of those situations where that's a gay dude and his girl bestie, and they will fuck your shit up all day. There's a particular term that's used that I'm not gonna say because you ain't getting me in trouble, but y'all know what I'm talking about. If that kind of dynamic, and I think that works exceptionally well, especially when we get to The Last Stand. There are some good moments in that movie, even though overall I don't really like that movie, but I'll get to that as well. There's another moment that kind of comes into play with that kind of dynamic and relationship. Another great thing about understanding character and having another callback, the fact that when Kurt is like, I can't get into Cerebro unless I can see, I have to see where I'm going. And Storm, having had that conversation with Kurt and his faith, being like, I have faith in you.
If I can't see where I'm going,
I have faith in you.
our Father, who art in heaven, thy will be done on earth as it
is in heaven.
And for him to tap into his own faith and to believe and to be able to save the day, I thought that was great. And then last but not least, Bryan Singer, David Hayter, they really understand X-Men lore and the fact that the X-Mansion gets destroyed more often than Jean faints.
You'll be blind without Cerebro, Xavier.
You didn't.
Jean.
Help me.
All of that was really great. Here are some of my cons. I think some of the realistic elements don't really make sense to me. Like the cops, when they go to Boston, they shoot Logan in the head immediately, but they don't. Oh, and I understand it's like, oh, put the knives down. I can't.
All right, the rest of you, on the ground, now.
You've been told that there was a threat, his family's being held hostage, and then you're negotiating with Pyro. You give him enough time to not only start a lighter, but start throwing fire. And then on top of that, nobody was hurt because you had enough for people to stand up, and they've got char on them, but they can still point their guns, and nobody pulls the trigger at all. That's something that seems a little weird to me in that regard, without someone yelling a stand down or something. It's just a little thing I noticed, but it seemed very plot convenient to take out Logan, who can't die, but then you don't open fire on anybody else if you're that gun happy. It's just a little weird to me. I also find it very weird that soldiers and Secret Service agents can hit tiny ass little cameras to stop the mutants from spying on them, but you can't hit Mystique or Nightcrawler at all, not once. Mystique isn't like dropping down to mouse size or whatever. She's kind of doing some basic flips. Nightcrawler, I'll give you that more because he's teleporting so much, but there are definitely a few moments. You're talking about some of the best as far as they are trained and absolutely nothing. I didn't notice it back then because I'm just super into the action, and obviously it's a little bit of plot armor / writing and whatnot. But it was just very interesting to me to see that. And then the other things that I don't think that worked very well, there's like some straying from canon. I hate this notion that the Phoenix is just magically in Jean and is just a part of her instead of the cosmic entity, because there's something very specific about this entity that doesn't understand human emotion, and then it gets addicted to power and lust for power inside Jean and kind of takes over from her, and then Jean struggle back and forth. She does kind of struggle because she doesn't want to hurt people, but it's very different. Her like, I just have a dark side, versus this other being coming into her body, and then the fight that's happening, and it lets some of her negativity. It's very different, and I don't love that they went away from that. I understand in movies you got to do that stuff, but whatever. I think it's a horrible mistake to make Colossus not Russian.
This way. He's stunned.
I can help you. Help them.
If you go and watch, he has 2 lines maybe. He is a very American accent. If you had time to make Kurt German, you could have got, even this actor could have faked a Russian accent for 2 lines. That is actually paramount to his character that he's Russian. So like him and Ilyana. So like, I don't know, taking that away was not great to me. Also, I'll give you Toad might die from being shocked from a bolt of lightning and thrown off a building. I will not give you that Sabretooth just magically doesn't exist anymore. His healing factor is on par, sometimes argued better than Logan's, especially because he's not having to fight off the adamantium in his body. There is no way that what he got hit with killed him. He would not have died from that. So to not address why Sabretooth isn't around, you could even just say he also got caught and put in prison. we don't need him. He's just going to drag us down. Anything. Even give us a moment where maybe, I don't know, he's working for Shark. I don't know. But to not address that, to me, knowing Sabretooth's powers, that's a huge miscue. And then lastly, I don't love that Lady Deathstrike wasn't a cyborg, that she was actually considered a mutant instead. I think her storyline that you normally get from her feeling dishonored for her father, so she ends up getting cybernetic upgrades so she can take revenge on Logan and all that. I find that far more fascinating, and I get you got to trim some storylines and make things fit than, you know, what they kind of did here. I thought Kelly Hu was great, but I don't love what they did with the Lady Deathstrike story. But that's just me personally. I would definitely say though, if this is a very, you need to take this with a grain of salt because I might change my mind. But as of right now, any movie in this Fox Marvel universe, the Marvel Fox universe, whatever the fuck, that has X-Men in the name. So I'm not including the Deadpool movies, and I'm not including, like, say, Logan. But if it has X-Men in the name, this is actually the best one, in my opinion. Now, I could change my mind because I do really love First Class and Days of Future Past. I thought those were fantastic movies. But when you genuinely go and look back at this movie and how well done it is, how well it imprints real-life conversations, how the action works, the utilization of power specifically is so huge for me. Not just, oh yeah, I shoot beams, I'm shooting a beam, I'm doing the whatever, but like the nuances of how their powers can be used in everyday situations, battle, everything else like that, I just thought was so well done. Right now, that's where it stands. I'm feeling like it might be my favorite X-Men titled movie. And if I had to give it a rating, I'm giving it a 4.9. It is fantastic. It is so good. Is there still 2000s cheese? Of course. Is some of that probably a little bit of my nostalgia? Of course. It happens. But from top to bottom, this movie is just so well done. And a lot of people said that this was the best X-Men movie until you got the reboot, the soft reboot happening with Fassbender and McAvoy. Quick addendum, I know I'm wearing a different shirt. That's because I realized as I was editing this video, I forgot the most important thing about this. What do I think out of X2 X-Men United will end up in Deadpool and Wolverine? If I had to guess, just trying to think of the iconic moments, I think you could very easily see one of the Magneto moments, maybe Magneto escaping in the iron and the blood type situation. You could just as easily see the Bobby's coming out portion, and especially directly speaking on that. I could see that being a big deal. And then the other big one would be Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's opening sequence. It's one of the more iconic opening sequences for a superhero movie, so I could just as easily see that as well. I think those are the three that really pop out in my mind. Anyway, I want to know what you think, man. Tell me about all the pros and cons, if you agree with that kind of stuff, if there's stuff that you really rock with this movie, what you would rate it. I would love to know what you think. And if you haven't already, and as I mentioned before, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and throw a like on this, man. Again, those likes and those comments help build up the algorithm. I appreciate that shit. Now, I got a lot of content coming out. I got to keep it rolling. Daredevil will be coming out soon. I got to sit down and watch it. I don't want to, but I'm gonna because I said I would. Just a lot of stuff going on, so please be sure to come back in and check all of that out. And again, we're trying to get to monetization. We're getting closer and closer, man. So if you've got some time, watch another video. You can watch a short one. I took my Blerd breakdown, the funnies, Friday Funnies episode, man. I broke it up into clips for you, all the ones that I could put up that weren't giving me copyright strike issues or copyright ding issues. So go check those out for a little bit. Just give me some more watch time. I would really greatly appreciate that, man. But until then, I'm gonna get out of here, and I will see you on the next one, man. Peace.